Welcome to Beyond the Dark. Here, every story is an invitation to explore the unknown, to walk paths where fear whispers in your ear. You are about to hear a tale that might leave you sleepless tonight. But beware, some doors, once opened, cannot be closed. Are you ready? Then let us begin. It was just another ordinary Friday night, or so I thought. I had gone out to celebrate a friend's birthday and, like always, had lost track of time. By the time I decided to go home, it was already 2:30 a.m., and the streets were almost completely deserted. Instead of waiting for a bus, I decided to take a taxi. I quickly opened a rideshare app on my phone, but there were no drivers available nearby. That's when I spotted an old, beat-up yellow taxi parked across the street, as if it were waiting for someone. I hesitated for a moment. There was something unsettling about the car. Its headlights flickered faintly, and the driver's silhouette seemed stiff, unmoving. But exhaustion got the better of me, and I waved it down. The car pulled up slowly, its engine making a low, grumbling noise. As I got in, I noticed a peculiar smell inside, something faintly metallic mixed with an old, musty odor. The driver didn't say a word. He simply nodded when I told him my address and started driving. The first few minutes were uneventful. I was scrolling through my phone when I realized the route felt off. We were taking dark, narrow streets I didn't recognize. "Excuse me, this isn't the way to my house," I said nervously. The driver didn't respond. His hands gripped the wheel tightly, and his eyes were locked on the road ahead, unblinking. "Hey, did you hear me?" I raised my voice. Still no answer. That's when I noticed something that sent chills down my spine. The rearview mirror was tilted just enough for me to see the driver's face, and what I saw was anything but normal. His skin was pale, almost grayish, and his eyes looked hollow, like empty sockets staring into nothingness. Panicking, I reached for the door handle, but it wouldn't budge. It was locked. My heart raced as I tried to think of what to do. "Let me out," I yelled, banging on the window. The driver's head slowly turned toward me, and a crooked smile spread across his face. I was frozen in fear when the car suddenly came to a halt in the middle of a deserted road. The driver turned off the engine, and the silence was deafening. Then, without a word, he got out of the car. My instincts kicked in, and I desperately tried to unlock the door from the inside. After what felt like an eternity, it finally opened. I jumped out and ran as fast as I could, not daring to look back. After a few minutes, I spotted a small convenience store still open and dashed inside, gasping for air. The cashier looked at me, concerned. "Are you okay?" he asked. I tried to explain what had just happened, but he interrupted me. "Wait, did you say you took a yellow taxi?" I nodded, still trembling. His face went pale. "That can't be. There haven't been yellow taxis operating in this area for years. The last driver of a cab like that, he died in an accident, right on that same road where you said the car stopped. To this day, I don't know who or what was driving that taxi. But one thing is certain, I'll never take a ride from a stranger again." I had just moved into a small apartment in a quiet part of the city. It wasn't luxurious, but it was affordable and cozy enough for me. My only concern was the neighbor across the hall. I never saw him, but I could hear strange noises coming from his apartment late at night. Soft whispers, low hums, and sometimes even what sounded like scratching on the walls. One evening, as I was coming home from work, I noticed his door slightly ajar. Curiosity got the best of me, and I peeked inside. The apartment was dark, with only a dim light flickering in the corner. "Hello," I called out, but there was no response. That's when I noticed something strange on the walls. They were covered in photographs, hundreds of them, and in every single photo, the same person appeared me. I stumbled back in shock, my heart pounding. Suddenly, the door slammed shut, and I heard the unmistakable sound of a lock clicking from the inside. I ran back to my apartment, bolted the door, and called the building manager. When he arrived and unlocked the neighbor's door, the apartment was completely empty. No furniture, no photos, nothing. It was as if no one had ever lived there. To this day, I have no explanation for what I saw. The only thing I know for sure is that I was being watched. It was a typical day at the busy JFK airport in New York. I was 26 years old and about to board with 5 friends for a week of relaxation at a beach house in Florida. We were excited, laughing, and sharing our expectations for the trip. However, before boarding, I was hit with an urgent need to go to the bathroom. This is a normal thing, but the enormous line snaking out the door immediately soured my mood. As I observed the massive line, I noticed a cleaning staff member passing by. Without hesitation, I approached her and asked if there was another less crowded bathroom nearby. To my surprise, she leaned slightly and, in a confidential tone, pointed to a discreet door at the end of the hallway. She said there was a bathroom there, but almost no one used it. I thanked her with a smile and headed in the indicated direction, not knowing that I was about to enter a disturbing experience. Behind that door, there was a narrow, dimly lit staircase that led to a dark hallway, so tight that 2 people would have to squeeze to pass side by side. The atmosphere was uncomfortable, but I was focused on my mission. I found the bathroom at the end of the hallway. The door was heavy, and I had to push hard to open it. Inside, the environment seemed forgotten by time. Stained walls, a musty smell, and an absolute silence. I entered one of the stalls and prepared to do what I needed, but as a precaution, I quickly stepped out to check if I was truly alone. When I looked down the hallway, my eyes met a figure standing in the shadows. It was a tall, thin man with dark clothes that almost blended into the darkness around him. He made no movement, just stood there, motionless, staring directly at me. My heart raced, but I decided to ignore him and went back into the bathroom. I closed the door and stood still, feeling a chill run down my spine. The silence was broken by the sound of the heavy bathroom door opening. Through the space under the stall door, I saw a pair of black shoes stop at the stall next to mine. The man closed the door, but no other sound followed. No sound of a seatbelt being fastened, nothing. Just silence. Suddenly, I felt a presence. I looked up and, to my horror, saw the man's face peering over the partition, his eyes fixed on me with an inhuman and disturbing expression. I screamed so loudly that my own echo startled me. I didn't wait to see his reaction. I ran out of the stall and, without looking back, I climbed the stairs as fast as I could. When I returned to my friends, my heart was still pounding like a drum. They noticed I was shaken, but I chose not to tell them what happened. I didn't want to be the subject of jokes. Throughout the entire trip to Florida, the look of that man haunted me. I didn't know who he was or what he intended, but I knew that moment would be etched in my memory forever. My wife, Michelle, had just returned from a trip to California with her friends. I went to pick her up at the airport, and as usual, I was excited to see her. When she finally appeared in the lobby, I smiled as I saw her waving enthusiastically at me. She came running, gave me a tight hug, and a warm kiss. However, her expression soon changed to one of concern. Michelle began frantically searching her pockets and announced, with a trembling voice, that she had lost her wallet and keys. Trying to calm her down, I offered to help her look for them. One of her friends also joined us, and we went back to the terminal to retrace her steps. We searched every corner, asked staff, and even requested to check the plane. Nothing. After a frustrating and unsuccessful search, we returned home. Michelle was clearly upset and went straight to the bedroom, throwing her bag on the bed. I stayed in the kitchen, preparing a quick snack, but the scream I heard next made my blood run cold. I rushed upstairs and found Michelle in the bedroom, pale and trembling, pointing at the bathroom. I looked around and saw that the bedroom closets were open, and our belongings were scattered on the floor. Boxes had been rummaged through, papers were spread out, and it was clear someone had broken into our home. She stammered, saying she had seen a strange man entering the bathroom. For a moment, I was frozen, but I knew I had to act. I tried to open the bathroom door, but it was locked. Michelle ran downstairs to call the police while I tried to break down the door with my shoulder. After a few blows, The door finally gave way, but the bathroom was empty. The window was wide open, and it seemed that the intruder had escaped through there. When the police arrived, Michelle described the man, extremely tall, with fixed eyes and a blank expression on his face. She said he had simply walked past her, as if he had no fear of being seen, and locked himself in the bathroom. It was then that we realized he must have found Michelle's keys and wallet at the airport and used them to follow us home. The thought that a stranger had been inside our home, rummaging through our things and watching Michelle, was terrifying. The next day, we changed all the locks, but the trauma of that day remains. I still wonder what could have happened if Michelle hadn't noticed the presence of that man in time.